12 mega deals over $10 billion, the highest since 2008. Bankers are definitely ordering the good champagne again.
Oh, please. Look at the footnotes. 4 of the biggest deals were AI equity investments, not traditional buyouts.
Equity, buyout, whatever. $1.2 trillion in a single quarter is a massive flex.
It's not a flex, it's fear. They're dodging antitrust regulators, spending billions just to hide in plain sight.
Hiding with a 12-figure price tag. Very subtle. So how exactly did we hit that 1.2 trillion mark? The rundown. $2.25 billion for hand sanitizer. I mean, Clorox buying GOJO is just peak pandemic nostalgia.
Nostalgia or desperation? They are paying a massive premium for a brand that peaked 5 years ago. I read the release, Nate. They buried the projected revenue synergies on page 12.
Look, Perel is a verb at this point. It's a legacy play. But fine, let's talk biotech if you want actual growth. GSK just scooped up RAPT Therapeutics for $2.2 billion.
Exactly the same price tag as the hand sanitizer deal, which is wild to think about. And keeping the healthcare train rolling, Cyclerion and Korsana are doing an all-stock merger, backed by a $380 million private investment.
All stock. You know, I love an all-stock deal. It's just bankers saying, we have no idea what either of these companies are actually worth, so let's just smash the equity together and pray.
You are so cynical today.
I call it clarity. Speaking of clarity, Soluna Holdings just bought the Briscoe Wind Farm in West Texas for $53 million, 150 megawatts.
I hate this deal. Why is a data center company buying a wind farm? It's pure greenwashing.
Oh, come on, it's brilliant. They lock in their power costs and get the ESG crowd off their backs in one move. 53 million is a rounding error for that kind of PR.
It's a distraction from their core business. I will bet you lunch they spin it off within 2 years.
Deal. Make it the good sushi place. Now, I have a blind item for you.
Oh, I love blind items.
BizCap just structured an $11.75 million financing package, highly confidential IT services acquisition. The buyer is an unnamed minority woman-owned organization. Wall Street is buzzing trying to figure out who it is.
11 million is small potatoes, but the secrecy is fascinating. Speaking of secrets, the worst kept one right now is how big tech thinks they can fool the antitrust regulators with these massive AI equity investments.
Right, they aren't buying the cow, they are just buying a 90% non-voting stake in the milk, which perfectly explains how Q1 just shattered records at $1.2 trillion. The big one. $1.2 trillion in 3 months. I had to refresh my terminal twice just to make sure I wasn't looking at an annualized projection.
A 26% jump year over year, and the volume is entirely carried by the return of the mega deal. We saw 12 transactions cross the $10 billion mark this quarter.
12.
The highest number since 2008, which is a year that always makes everyone feel super comfortable and not at all terrified.
Please don't say 2008 to a former banker. I still have stress dreams about Lehman, but look at what is actually driving this spike. It's the AI gold rush. 4 of the 6 largest deals this quarter were AI plays.
Right, but look at the structure of those 4 deals, Nate. They aren't outright acquisitions. They're massive equity investments. Every single press release calls it a, quote, strategic partnership.
Because it's a partnership. The tech giants get exclusive access to the models, the AI startups get the compute power and the capital they desperately need to scale. It's a highly efficient way to deploy capital without absorbing a massive, chaotic startup culture.
Oh, come on. You're reading the corporate comms playbook word for word. You know exactly why they're doing massive equity investments instead of buyouts.
I think you're being overly cynical.
I'm looking at the reality of the antitrust environment. They're dodging regulators. If any of the big tech players tried to outright buy a major AI lab right now, the FTC and the European Commission would block it before the ink was dry. The whispers all over Wall Street are saying the exact same thing. These minority stakes are just a giant regulatory workaround.
Okay, yes, the regulatory environment is hostile. I'll grant you that. But from a valuation standpoint, it still makes perfect sense. Why pay a 100% premium to acquire the whole company when a 20% stake gets you the exact same commercial integration?
Because you don't actually own the IP, you're just renting influence until the regulators figure out how to classify these shadow acquisitions. And speaking of the European Commission, did you catch who actually led the broader M&A volume this quarter?
Europe, which is wild, totally unexpected. European dealmakers are usually the ones taking a breath while Wall Street sprints, but they actually outpaced historical trends by a massive margin.
Exactly. They're showing exceptionally strong performance, and I want to see if they can maintain that momentum into the spring, especially with some of these complex cross-border structures.
We'll definitely be watching that. But we also need to talk about the micro-cap space because while the mega deals are eating all the headlines, we have some fascinating movement down market.
Like the RTB digital merger.
Exactly. Shareholders just officially approved the merger with RIVL Inc., and they start trading under the new combined NASDAQ listing tomorrow, which is going to be a massive test for that specific sector. Voices. So the analysts are out in full force this week, and the consensus is basically that tech giants have suddenly discovered the magic of minority equity investments.
Oh, please. They're calling it a strategic pivot to partnerships.
Right, they're saying outright acquisitions are out and massive AI equity checks are in, which honestly makes sense to me. You get the AI exposure without the integration headache. It's like dating instead of getting married.
Nate, come on. You know exactly what this is. I was reading the actual deal structures. This isn't about integration. This is 100% about dodging antitrust regulators.
You really think they're just hiding?
They are absolutely hiding. Look at the Wall Street whispers right now. They can't buy these AI startups outright because regulators would kill the deals before the ink is even dry. So they write a massive equity check, take 49%, and call it a partnership. It's a buyout wearing a fake mustache.
Okay, fair point. The fake mustache is working, though. It helped to drive Q1 to $1.2 trillion, a 26% jump from last year.
12 deals over $10 billion, the highest since 2008.
Which is wild. But here's the quote that actually surprised me. Industry watchers are pointing to Europe as the unexpected leader of this Q1 surge. European deal makers are absolutely crushing historical trends right now.
I saw that. And while everyone is looking at Europe and the mega deals, I am obsessed with this blind item floating around. BizCap just secured an $11.75 million financing package for a highly confidential IT services buyout.
Wait, really? We are talking about a $1.2 trillion quarter, and you are distracted by an $11 million blind item?
The buyer is an unnamed minority woman-owned organization. It's super stealthy, and the financing structure is fascinating. I love a good mystery.
You and your footnotes? Well, we will see if Europe can keep this crazy momentum going into the spring.
And tomorrow, we are going to see if that RTB digital merger actually holds up when they finally start trading on the NASDAQ. Spill the tea.
So everyone is calling these massive AI equity investments a brilliant new partnership model. I call it abject terror of antitrust regulators.
Oh, come on. You think these tech giants just throw billions at startups purely because they're scared to file a merger agreement?
Yes, absolutely. They saw what happened to traditional tech buyouts. The regulators are basically acting like bouncers at an exclusive club, and massive equity checks are the fake ID.
I completely disagree. Look at the footnotes. 4 of the 6 largest deals this quarter were structured this way. It's not just dodging regulators, it's capital efficiency. It keeps the founders hungry and keeps the acquirer from having to integrate a messy startup culture into their rigid corporate bureaucracy.
Spoken like a true tech apologist. I'm telling you, if they could buy them outright, they would. But speaking of stealthy moves, did you see the blind item floating around BizCap?
The $11.75 million financing package.
Exactly. Highly confidential IT services acquisition. The buyer is an unnamed minority woman-owned organization.
I saw that. 11.75 is a very specific, weirdly small number for all this cloak and dagger stuff. Usually when you see this level of secrecy, we're talking billions.
right? It feels like someone is trying to quietly roll up a bunch of lucrative government IT contracts before anyone notices. I love a good micro cap mystery.
Well, while you play corporate detective on an $11 million deal, the rest of the market just casually dropped $1.2 trillion in Q1.
12 deals over 10 billion. The mega deal is officially back.
And honestly, the craziest part isn't even the tech giants. It's what the European deal makers are doing right now.
Oh, we definitely need to talk about Europe's massive spring momentum. Tomorrow's radar, 1.2 trillion for Q1. I am telling you, Europe is going to carry this momentum straight through the spring.
Oh, come on. Europe had one lucky quarter. You really think they sustain that while the US prints mega deals?
Yes, because US tech giants are too busy dodging regulators. These massive AI equity investments are literally just M and A in a trench coat sneaking past the FTC.
Okay, that is actually a great analogy. Speaking of sneaking around, did you catch that BizCap blind item? 11.75 million for a confidential IT buyout.
By an unnamed minority woman-owned firm. I love a good Wall Street mystery.
I spent an hour trying to reverse engineer the buyer from old corporate filings. Total ghost.
You seriously need a hobby? Just watch the NASDAQ tomorrow instead. RTB Digital starts trading under the new combined structure.
I have my popcorn ready for the opening bell. We will see if the market actually buys their synergy math tomorrow morning.